DeSoto, Missouri is a small, quiet town. But even small towns hide secrets. Here, lives were changed forever when Emily Strite disappeared. There was no warning, no goodbye, just questions unanswered and silence. The truth vanished with her, leaving fear and suspicion behind. This is the story of what remains unknown, of a darkness that refuses to give up its secrets. This is the chilling story of Emily Strite. Who was Emily Strite? Emily Ann Strite was 33. She lit up every room she entered. Her smile melted hearts, her kindness knew no limits. Her family adored her. Her bond with her mother, Charlene McLean, was deep and unbreakable. She was the happiest, most caring person, Charlene said, her voice trembling. We were always together. Emily wasn't just a daughter, she was her mother's best friend, her rock. Emily was also a loving mother of 4 children. 3 of them lived with their father, her ex, Steve Fultz, in Cahokia, Illinois. But Emily never let the distance stand in her way. She was strong, brave, and an amazing mom, Steve said. Her kids were her world. She made sure they knew it. Everyone knew everyone in DeSoto. Emily fit right in, her kindness touching everyone around her. But even small towns aren't always safe. Danger can hide where you least expect it. Emily's days seemed normal, routine even. But something was waiting, creeping just beyond her sight. Life in DeSoto was calm on the surface, but under it, shadows moved. Emily had no way of knowing her ordinary world was on the verge of breaking. The disappearance. The night of Emily's disappearance had seemed like just another ordinary night. There really was no hint of the tragedy yet to unfold. April 12, 2024 was the date on the calendar which marked this day and would scar the life of those in DeSoto. She had a friend in DeSoto who was hosting her on that particular day. The house was alive with her laughter as she savored the little joys, lost in thoughts about happier occasions gone by. Earlier that day, she had talked with her mother, Charlene. We just spoke for a minute or so, Charlene recalled, her tone dipped in nostalgia. It was Charlene who bought tickets to see Emily's children. I'm gonna go see my kids. Just another day in the life, nothing out of the ordinary. Both of them were not aware that this would be their last conversation. Charlene presumed Emily traveled to Cahokia to visit her children who were in custody of their father at Cahokia. It was something which she usually did, a normal aspect of her life as a mother. Steve would usually pick her up himself or arrange for someone to bring her. The routine was so familiar that Charlene did not think twice about it. That was pretty routine, Charlene noted, her voice filled with a mix of resignation and sadness as she recalled the pattern that had brought comfort in the past, but now felt hauntingly empty. Emily adored her children more than anything else in the world. She lived for the time she could spend with them and soak up their laughter, stories, and endless energy. Her trips to Cahokia were a regular chance for her to reconnect with them. This was often the highlight of her week, and she always really looked forward to it. Charlene often heard Emily's joy when she talked about her kids, the way her eyes lit up when she spoke of their latest adventures, or the little milestones they had reached. So when days passed without hearing from her daughter, Charlene didn't worry right away. She told herself that Emily must be caught up in the busyness of motherhood. She imagined Emily helping her children with their homework, playing games with them, or simply enjoying their company. It wasn't unusual for Emily to lose track of time when she was with them. After all, she always wanted to make the most of every visit, knowing how precious those moments were. Perhaps her phone had run out of battery, or she had forgotten to call amidst the chaos of keeping up with 4 kids. Charlene reassured herself with these thoughts, believing Emily was safe and happy, wrapped up in the love and noise of her children's lives. Emily was a grown woman after all, and she had her own life to manage. Charlene trusted her daughter's judgment and believed there was no reason to worry. But as the quiet days stretched into the week, an unease began to grow in her heart. The silence from Emily became harder to ignore, like a shadow creeping into her thoughts. Charlene tried to push the worry aside, telling herself again and again that everything was fine. Emily had probably just gotten busy, as she often did. But deep down, a small voice whispered that something wasn't right. It was a feeling she couldn't shake, no matter how hard she tried to convince herself otherwise. The phone call. On the evening of April 19th, everything changed. The phone rang. Charlene answered with a smile, expecting a casual conversation, but Steve's voice on the other end was different, serious, tense. His question made her heart stop. "Have you heard from your daughter? It's been over a week now and I haven't seen or heard from her," he said. Charlene froze. Her heart sank. "He's never called me like this before," she later said. "That's why I panicked when he called." In that moment, her world fell apart. Fear and worry took over, and the life she knew was no longer normal. Desperate for answers, Charlene started calling Emily's phone. She dialed once, pressing the phone to her ear, hoping to hear her daughter's voice. But it went straight to voicemail. She tried again, and again. Every time it was the same. Her calls went unanswered. With each try, her worry grew. Emily was never out of touch for this long. She always called back, even if she was busy. The silence from the phone was deafening. Questions now began to rise and swirl in her head. Was Emily hurt? Was she safe? This worry wouldn't give her peace. Each unanswered call was like an empty echo reminding her something was very wrong. Morning turned into afternoon, and still no word from Emily. The hours dragged on heavy with fear and uncertainty. As the sun set, long shadows filled the house, matching the darkness in her heart. She couldn't sleep. She spent the night pacing, imagining every possible scenario, each one worse than the last. Every tick of the clock felt like a reminder of time slipping away, of the unknown stretching out before her. By the next day, Charlene knew she couldn't wait any longer. The worry was too much. She decided to act. With a heavy heart and shaking hands, she went to the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office. Every step felt harder than the last, as if the weight of her fears was crushing her. April 20th, she filed a missing person report. As she filled out the paperwork, every word felt like admitting her worst fears might be true. Her hope this was all just a misunderstanding was fading. Reality was settling on her shoulders. Charlene couldn't give up hope, though. She prayed that Emily would walk through the door and that this nightmare would end. But deep down, she knew this was only the beginning. She was about to face a long and painful journey into the unknown, a kind of journey that would test every ounce of her strength and love as a mother. The investigation. Detectives went door to door, knocking, asking friends and acquaintances. They walked her usual routes. They went to all her favorite places. They hoped they might find something, anything that would lead them to her. They checked her favorite spots. The cafe where she always got her drink, the park where she liked to sit, the shops she shopped. Family and friends didn't stop there. They posted about Emily on social media. They shared her photo and every detail they could think of. Her smile was everywhere, on street corners, on flyers, in shops, but it was like she had vanished into thin air. No one knew where she was. No one had any answers. Then something strange happened. The initial missing person flyer listed Emily's last known location as Imperial, a St. Louis suburb. But later, detectives learned she was last seen in DeSoto. This was a significant detail and raised troubling questions. Why the confusion? How had her last known location been misidentified? And, most importantly, had this early error cost them precious time in the search? They updated the location in an updated bulletin posted several days later. If they got something as simple as her last known location wrong, what else was wrong? Could this mistake have delayed them finding her? Some wondered if the information was intentional, a deliberate attempt to throw them off track. Detectives delved deeper. They examined surveillance footage from multiple locations. One significant piece of evidence came from a Waffle House in St. Louis County. Video evidence was seized from multiple locations, said Grant Bissell, the Public Safety Information Coordinator at the Sheriff's Office. The footage appeared to depict Emily. The video appeared to show Emily inside the restaurant, and she didn't seem to be in distress. Her demeanor was calm, ordinary even, as if it were just another day. However, the date and time of the footage remained unclear, leaving detectives with more questions than answers. Other videos have been seized as well, though the persons depicted in the video is more ambiguous and remains a part of the investigation, Bissell added. If they got something as simple as her last known location wrong, what else was wrong? Could this mistake have delayed them finding her? As detectives worked around the clock to get to the truth, progress was glacial. Tips kept coming in, but most went nowhere. Leads died and witnesses gave conflicting accounts. The investigation was a maze with no exit. For every step forward they took, they were pushed 2 steps back. Time kept moving even though it felt like it shouldn't. Emily's family held on to hope, but it was getting harder to grasp with each passing day. Charlene couldn't stop thinking about her daughter, reliving their last conversation over and over in her head. Friends and family rallied around her, but even their collective strength couldn't erase the fear and sadness that loomed over them. But with every dead end, the weight of the unknown grew heavier. For Emily's loved ones, each passing day without answers felt like an eternity. The search continued, but so did the agony of not knowing, leaving everyone wondering if the truth would ever come to light. The grim discovery. Nearly 6 months following Emily's case, on September 28, 2024, a property owner from DeSoto made a discovery that shook the entire town. As he was walking in the woods close to the 4100 block of Frisell Road, he stumbled upon an object that was out of place, some human bones scattered on the trees. When he understood what he had discovered, every part of his body froze. He did not think twice and reached out to the police. Deputies from the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office responded quickly, secured the site. Experts from the Regional Medical Examiner's Office came into the picture, adding weight to the difficult scenario. There was no carelessness involved in any movement or deposition of evidences. It was several hours later, after the medical and dental records were processed, that the confirmation came. The bones were indeed Emily's. The case, which had become an obsession for her family, friends, and investigators, had taken a heartbreaking turn. This announcement really shocked everybody, as though it is a tsunami. It quickly circulated in the area, destroying the last threads of hope that her family had been clinging to. To Charlene, it was a devastating blow of intense sorrow, and the last crushing of the optimism she had fought so hard to keep. "I had hope," Charlene said to reporters, tears in her eyes. "But then again, as a mom, I really knew she wasn't here. She never not called me." Her words described the ache and emptiness she had been living with for 6 months. Emily's family and friends were heartbroken. For months they had been asking the same question over and over. Where is Emily? Now they had an answer, but it brought no comfort. Instead of relief, they were left with an even more terrifying question. What happened to her? The mystery of Emily's disappearance had only grown deeper instead of solved. How did her remains end up in the woods? What happened in her last hours? The answers remained elusive. The woods where Emily was found became the crime scene. Deputies combed the area, collecting evidence and looking for any clue that might explain what happened to her. Investigators worked methodically, but it was slow going. The investigation deepens. When Emily's body was found by the police, the investigation then entered a new phase. The family now finally did have an answer to where she was, but still there was no resolution as to what had happened to her and how she died. The investigators knew it was going to be a tough road, as figuring out what happened to Emily and why would take work and time. The area was overgrown and remote and presented its own challenges. Investigators had to sift through months of natural changes to the environment, rain, wind, and animal activity, all of which could have contaminated critical evidence. The remains were fragile and had to be handled with care so no evidence was lost. Forensic specialists were examining the scene and the remains looking for trauma or other signs of what happened to Emily. The sheriff's office said it would not be immediate in determining the cause of death. It may take some time to learn Emily's cause of death, which is common in most cases. This was tough to hear for Emily's family. After months of waiting and searching, the answers they were looking for were still out of reach. The family could only wait as investigators followed every lead. But the detectives were not giving up. They told the public and Emily's family progress was being made. Even without the cause of death, we're still moving the case forward on our end. This gave hope, even as frustration grew with the slow pace of the investigation. The renewed attention on Emily's case went beyond the site. Investigators were re-interviewing witnesses, revisiting old leads, and re-examining all the evidence they had collected previously. A person of interest. After Emily's body was found, the investigation moved forward. Authorities announced they had a person of interest in her case, and hope was rekindled. Detectives determined the person of interest from the tips that came in after Emily's body was located, the sheriff's office said. They didn't release the person's name, but it was progress in the long and painful search for answers. For Emily's loved ones, this was a roller coaster of emotions. Progress, but more questions. Who was this person? How was she actually connected to Emily? And most of all, what did they really know? Echoes of concern. As the investigation into Emily's death unfolded, her mom raised some concerns that brought focus to someone most people didn't suspect until then. But Charlene had been carrying these doubts for a while. She thought Steve, Emily's ex, might have been involved in harming her. Charlene shared some disturbing details. She was saying Steve had been sending her nasty texts for 6 months, telling her where Emily was. The police took Charlene seriously and were looking into what she was telling them. Each message was being combed over for anything that would link Steve to Emily's disappearance and death. But he denied all of this. He texted some reporters and said, "I had no idea Emily wanted to see the kids on April 12th because she didn't call me." He also said they were done in 2022 and that all their communication was about visitation for the kids. Steve called Emily a strong, brave woman and great mom, and said their communication had been limited in recent years to only discuss the kids. His denial left things murky, with no concrete evidence linking him to Emily's death. Authorities are being cautious not to jump to conclusions. At the time of making this video, no one had been named as a suspect, and no charges had been filed in connection to Emily's death. Investigators said they need to respect the case and make sure every lead, including Charlene's allegations, was looked into. For Emily's loved ones, the unknown continued to be brutal. While Charlene's concerns added to the urgency of the investigation, the reality was the path to justice was unclear. Detectives continued to work diligently, going through evidence, following up on tips and piecing together the last moments of Emily's life, community support and reflections. After Emily's disappearance and the discovery of her remains, the town of DeSoto came together in an amazing way to support her family. The small community rallied around them, offering comfort, strength, and solidarity in their darkest hour. Vigils were held to honor Emily's memory and to keep her story top of mind. These gatherings became a source of hope for her family. It was a reminder she would never be forgotten. At the vigils, friends, neighbors, and strangers lit candles, shared stories, and said prayers. The warm glow of those candles was a stark contrast to the dark shroud of mystery surrounding her death. Emily's mom, Charlene, expressed her gratitude for all the kindness and compassion. "The support means so much," she said. "Emily touched so many lives, and it's good to see how much she was loved." The family found strength in the community's arms, even as they dealt with their unimaginable loss. Beyond the emotional support, they also worked to honor Emily's memory in a lasting way. They set up a donation page through EquiSearch, the organization that had been a big part of the search. The goal was to give back to the group that had given so much time and energy to finding Emily and to help others who might find themselves in the same situation. Emily would give the shirt off her back to the ones she loved, down to her last dollar if they needed it, one friend said. She never deserved to just disappear into thin air. Her sister, Jess, said Emily was vibrant and full of life. "She was absolutely beautiful, shiny, big, vibrant," Jess said. "It's like a firework, something incredible and unforgettable." The quiet streets of DeSoto are no longer the same, haunted by what they cannot explain. Emily's story, shrouded in mystery, is a reminder of the horrors that can hide in plain sight. It's a tale of love and loss, but also of fear. A fear that something monstrous still lurks, waiting, unseen. Her disappearance and the discovery of her remains have created a void that feels heavy and unshakable. The woods where she was found seem quiet, yet they hold secrets. Secrets that may never be fully uncovered. The investigation is ongoing, detectives working day and night to get answers. But the truth remains hidden, and everyone is left wondering, what really happened to Emily? Who is to blame? The questions hang in the air, unanswered, like shadows that won't go away. For Emily's family, the pain is constant. They think of her every day, the way she smiled, the love she gave, and the joy she brought to their lives. They hold on to her memory tight, even as the world around them feels colder and darker without her. What do you think really happened to Emily Strite? Are there answers still waiting to be uncovered, or will the truth remain lost in the shadows? Share your thoughts in the comments. Every voice helps keep her story alive. If this chilling tale moved you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Together, we can ensure that stories like Emily's are never forgotten. A case so horrifying, it shook the entire nation. The Matthew Schleier case isn't just a crime, it's a nightmare brought to life. What led to one of the most gruesome acts in U.S. history? Uncover the chilling details and the shocking twists. Watch now if you dare.